Hi, I'm Wayne Cassio. Every year there are thousands of mergers and acquisitions totaling trillions of dollars worldwide. While deals are typically done for financial reasons, research shows that roughly 2/3 fail to live up to the expectations set for them. Once a deal is done, no task is more important than managing people effectively in the newly created firm. Many studies have found that integrating different organizational cultures is the top challenge in mergers and acquisitions. Cultures may differ in a number of ways, such as customs of conducting business, how people are expected to act, and the kinds of behaviors that get rewarded. This is a story about a merger that did not fail, one that lived up to the high expectations set for it. This year, the SHRM Foundation partnered with the Australian Human Resources Institute to feature the winner of its national competition in Australia for a firm that best exemplifies responsible restructuring. That firm is Bupa Australia, now the nation's largest privately managed health insurance group. Bupa Australia, then the country's third largest health insurer, engineered a merger with the MBF Group, Australia's second largest health insurer. The merged company had a new focus, namely to become a healthcare partner for its customers. Senior leaders in both firms recognized that great people were the key to delivering this promise. Thus, a major objective in the new company was to retain talented people. This year, our focus is on the post-merger integration process, which is critical when two large companies join together. Now let's meet Bupa's senior leaders and major players in the merger as they describe what, why, and how they did what they did.
We were the acquiring entity, Bupa. We were at number 3 in the market. We're operating at about 11% of share. We were buying and then merging with number 2 in the market that had 18% share. One of the dynamics we had to deal with is, small buying big here in the market. But the business case was basically about us getting acquisition and a merger across the line and the strategic value in that. We'd been talking to MBF for a long time, and the thing that really made it in the end, apart from the $2.4 billion it took to buy the business, was that the MBF directors and council could see that if this business model was applied to larger business, we'd extract value and their customers would get a better deal.
Although Peter Wilson did not participate in the merger, he is a well-respected voice on the subject, having taken part in many himself.
If you're going to be part of a dynamic environment, you expect to be involved in mergers and acquisitions, and I was involved in 7 major ones over my career. I think there's always a high priority put into the financial side or the synergy benefits, but the keys to successful integration are how you manage the people.
Bupa globally invested $2.4 billion in the acquisition of MBF back in 2008, and as a consequence of ensuring that the return on that investment was proceeding according to plans, the integration board was formed with a specific focus on oversighting the program of integration that the business was undertaking. The meetings were every month, and they would generally go for 3 to 4 hours. And it would span all aspects of the program of works that were planned to be delivered, as well as an assessment of how we're tracking against the synergy savings that had been set as part of the merger.
The approach that we took to designing the integration process was really important in creating a powerful cultural symbol for the organisation. So there were 3 key principles that would provide the overarching guideline for how we designed our integration process. The first principle was that we were creating something new. We weren't simply imposing the old Bupa Australia people model or the MBF model, but rather creating something new for this new business. The second principle was that we needed to take people on the journey with us, and that meant that the way we integrated these teams would create a very powerful cultural symbol for the future. And finally, that we needed to create certainty quickly for our people so that they could focus on the main game, which is looking after our customers.
The first principle we adopted was to very much focus on the external market. or focus our sales and our marketing people on the customers, in particular on our stakeholders and other key providers and suppliers. The last thing we wanted to do was see any of our customers leave the business as a consequence of the merger.
We recognised quite early that it was important to consolidate those financial systems as a key priority for providing a solid platform and foundation for the business, and we set about establishing what was referred to as the Financial Systems Integration Project, probably towards the end of the first year, and within about 6 or 7 months we had achieved the full consolidation of the MBF accounting system into the Bupa accounting system, and it made life a lot easier being able to go to one source of the truth to generate information. We're now starting to ask ourselves, okay, we have one system, we have one set of processes, we're meeting all of the requirements to support the business, but how can we do it better? How can we do it faster, more efficient, with better insight into the business?
We created an identity of our own. It was bringing, the team had never worked together previously, of course. And the good thing about it was that the culture within each of the respective organisations was very similar. It was very customer-centric. So it was not about changing culture too much around the customer experience. It was more bringing the teams together to one team, one company.
When you go live on a merger, there's so much noise and people are hungry for information. So our challenge was to ensure that our planning was so tight that we were able to provide the right information in the right way at the right time for all of our people. And that meant that we had to provide information through a range of channels and in a range of different ways so that people could get the information in a way that worked for them. The other challenge was that quite often we didn't have the answers to the questions that people had, and so we had to be very honest quite often and say, actually, I don't have the answer to that question, but I will let you know as soon as we do.
We filled 230 executive jobs in 100 days through an open, transparent process. No one was placed in jobs. People had to apply, so position descriptions had to be developed, remuneration schedules, interviews conducted, all of those sorts of things.
As each level of selection took place, there were a number of people who were left without roles. So we decided that rather than let those people go immediately, we would put those people into a redeployment pool with the objective of trying to find alternative roles for those individuals.
The fears were quite understandable, and I think that they were the fears that we'd predicted. So that sense of uncertainty, what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen to my manager.
Groups like the hospitals and the doctors that we contract with would want to know, well, what's this going to mean for the contracts with us? So we'd have to add a bit that was related to them. Or the government, for example, might be wondering, what does this mean for customers, and will there be any changes that are likely to breach regulations?
We ran a comprehensive, integrated communication program across the merger period. One of the early things we did was make sure we aligned both the internal communications with the external communications. We had a small team of people that actually met to work through key messages and plan the implementation of the communication program. I was given the full mandate of our communications, both internal at that point and external, across all of our stakeholder groups, including obviously customers.
We wanted to make sure we got consistent messages. So there was a lot of coordination and logistics to make sure that we were clear who had the principal relationship, who was communicating, that we were all reading from the same hymn sheet, and that it was done in a timely way.
And we used all of the normal communication vehicles that you would expect in a merger situation, from town hall meetings to face-to-face briefings for all of our people. In fact, our leadership team toured the country and met with all of our people face-to-face twice in the first 100 days. We also used printed newsletters, e-newsletters, and in fact on the first day of going live on the merger we launched a new website for all of our people. It was a place where we provided information about the merger, we provided information about the integration process, job vacancies were posted there.
I'm afraid mergers fail because they're often conceived and executed in a very clinical atmosphere of head office amongst the most senior people of an organisation. and then it all seems to be left to somebody else to make happen, and that approach never succeeds.
More than anything else, what's important is the culture in organisations. So we put a lot of effort into all the change initiatives that we're putting in place, because every conversation you have in organisations builds the culture. The way in which we went about the whole restructure in the first place, that said a lot about what we wanted to be.
In the first 100 days, there was a risk that our people might not always get all of the information that they needed. So we developed the Merger Champions program to address that risk.
One of the main aims of the Champion program is to understand what the concerns were and then put things into place to address those. It was a program really designed as a forum to communicate pieces of information, give more detail about some of the reasons why a decision might have been made, but most importantly it was a mechanism to actually capture what our people were feeling. I was one of the facilitators in South Australia and Western Australia as well. Our human resources area sponsored the program and ran the program, so we would have a fortnightly briefing as the facilitators, and then we would cascade that information to our delegates, and those delegates were people from every area of the business, but really representing our people and our front line.
It's the nature of acquisitions that you get the keys on day one, and on day two people are expecting to understand how the new combined business is tracking. In keeping with a lot of companies, we tend to take a balanced scorecard approach. So the financial metrics are obviously an important aspect of any commercial business operation, and we certainly had a number of those, both profitability in terms of returns that were generated, but also in terms of the cost and savings synergies that were established. But we recognise that in order to achieve good financial performance, you also needed to have a culture that was collaborative and embraced the aspirations and the vision that the management team had. And as a consequence, we had some quite strong targets around staff opinion surveys, and also an external perspective, how our customers were feeling about the merger and the service level and service quality that they were experiencing.
There are several key measures that you continually look at, and generally they're around the speed at which you serve your customer. I also spent quite a bit of time listening to phone calls in our contact centres, as well as reviewing our customer complaints and really understanding what it was that was driving customers crazy, basically.
The key metrics that we use on an ongoing basis are our employee engagement survey. In addition to that, we ran monthly pulse checks across the business, which gave us just a short, snappy insight into how people were thinking and feeling about the work we were doing across the business.
We kept a close watch on our customer satisfaction and customer feedback, customer complaints. We also talk to our stakeholders regularly, be it government or regulators, providers and suppliers. And I guess the main theme was listening, listening and responding.
We'll complete the integration program a year and a half ahead of plan, which is just terrific. And but what's even more pleasing for me is that what we've stayed focused on is keeping the morale up and the customer satisfaction up. So employee engagement morale's continued to go up. It's nearly at 80%. Customer satisfaction's up at around 82%.
Almost 2/3 of our people were leaving or were new. We got that down under 20% within the first 12 months.
We actually improved our market share position for 3 consecutive quarters after the merger. So we actually found that the focus on doing things better, aligning and having clear messages and having people more galvanised around a clear purpose actually seemed us to improve our business growth through that period.
Probably the one that comes first to mind whenever I think about change is no matter what you estimate in time, you can always do it quicker. And that was really important as we entered this process. It was the thing that I highlighted most to the team. What you can't have if you want to get real change, what you can't have is big gaps between the implementation. You can't have people waiting 18 months before they see a change. It's got to, people have got to experience it. Trust your instincts. Especially in a merger, there's so much self-interest that happens, whether it's suppliers or employees or someone's favourite computer system or product or whatever it is. Trust your instincts and trust your experience in these things. Right? Second one was keep people busy. Support those people who are driving the change and where the most amount of change, and that's right. But also worry about those people that are not experiencing any change. Align them with your culture. I mean, it seems sensible, and maybe you think you can read it in a textbook, but you can't. You've just got to align everything to do with the culture you want for the business. Think about the future, think about the culture you want, design your programs to meet that.
We learned a lot. First of all, often you have to tell people things 5 times before they get the message. It's very important for us to be consistent, to have the same story going to all parties at the same time. The third thing is, if you don't have that information getting out there very currently, and there's a void of information, then people will start to have rumours or make assumptions, and it's much harder to undo the wrong messages that are getting out than to actually have your own story being put out in your own way in your own time. The final learning really is that this sort of communication is ongoing. It's a living process, and it's a great opportunity to tell your story and to keep telling it through the relationships that you build.
Having our leaders very visible throughout the process was critical for success. Having a plan provides the roadmap that you need for success. It's important to have someone manage that plan and manage it very tightly. It's very important to make sure that you get the balance right between using your own people in managing the integration activity and using experts, because it's your own people who understand your culture and understand how to get things done, and I think that helps drive success.
There were a few people early that I would say weren't on the bus. They weren't necessarily buying into the culture, and we probably tolerated some of those behaviours a bit too long.
Knowing when enough change is enough change and just stabilising is also very important.
Focus on the people first. I think one of the things that I did was focus on the integration first. What are the things we've got to integrate? And I think I should have spent more time, particularly with a team that I didn't know very well, because getting all of those people harnessed and focused at the early stage enables you to actually deliver much faster. The technology is the technology. It's a tool to support the business, but it requires the people to transform it, to develop it, and to support it.
Research has identified 5 key drivers of success in post-merger integration. They have proven successful at Bupa Australia, and they apply to any merger. Have a well-articulated strategy that identifies how the merger will be integrated. Be sure it reinforces the message that this is a merger of equals, if that is true, rather than an acquisition, and that all decisions are based on merit, not favoritism or bias. Establish a full-time integration team with ample resources and strong leadership. Ensure that the team is balanced with members from both companies. Communication from senior management should be constant and consistent. It should build confidence in the merger and integration process, including tangible goals, and address a variety of stakeholder concerns. Above all, avoid the 4 no's. No secrets, no surprises, no hype, and no empty promises. Speed in integration is critical. Employees, customers, and stock market analysts all dislike uncertainty, for it often engenders fear and suspicion. Conversely, fast decisions reduce uncertainty, promote stability, and help achieve strategic goals. Create a set of financial and non-financial measures that will help track the overall performance of the new company. Be sure that they align with the strategy and vision for the merger. For example, some non-financial measures include customer and employee satisfaction and retention, risk management, and cultural integration. Managing a merger is difficult, and there are many potential barriers to success. As Lewis Carroll, the author of Alice in Wonderland, once said, "If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there." We might add, but you're more likely to get there if you have a map. Thank you, Bupa Australia, for giving us all a map to merger success. You have shown us that the post-merger integration process can be managed successfully. When it is, employees, customers, and shareholders all win.